This is a free mini class made easy, so anyone can paint those cute watercolor Christmas cards along. It's my gift to you this year, and I hope you enjoy both the video and paintings. First, quick visuals of the simple and basic supplies you'll need. You need watercolor paper with a weight of 300 grams per square meter, so the paper is bendy enough to fold easily, but thick enough to last and stand still like a card. I prefer 100% cotton cold press papers, but that's not a must for this type of illustration. The cards will be a size of 5 by 5 inches, so I prepared 5 by 10 inches sections since we will fold them in half. 2 paintbrushes will be great. I like mine pointy at the end so I can get into more detail, but if you have 1 or 2 round ones like this, it works too. You need a basic watercolor set. The brand does not matter at all. We'll use basic colors like red, yellow, green, brown, and black. I like to pour my watercolor tubes in such a set because it has a built-in mixing palette. To prepare your cards and sketch the cute illustrations, you need a basic pencil, eraser, and a ruler. Remember to download the sketches from the description and have tracing paper handy. Masking tape is not a requirement, it just helps to fix the paper firmly on the work area. I like to tape mine all around my paintings for that purpose. Have 2 or 3 paper towels handy or a piece of fabric you can wipe your paintbrushes on. 2 jars of water are always helpful, one to wet a paintbrush, the other one to rinse the paint off of it. A white gel pen like this one will be great for making fine highlights, and if you don't have it, substitute with white gouache that you will use directly with your paintbrushes. I always use a heat gun to speed up drying times, not a must at all, but always convenient. I'm folding my paper strips in half and we're ready. Before you start, download the sketches and supplies checklist from the description of the video. Trace the drawings on your paper. Tape your card all around at the beginning of the painting. Watch all 3 lessons as we'll be zooming in specific techniques throughout each one. And reach out in the comments below if you need help with anything. Let's start with a super cute sheep. The first step is to mix colors. We need yellow, a little bit of green, red, brown, and black. Add enough water that this is a creamy consistency, neither too watery nor too thick. The second step is to apply a base layer on the sheep. To make a good wood color, mix yellow and brown. Paint all the wood parts without worrying about the eyes. With red, paint the hat. Avoid the area for the green bow. Mix brown and black together and make it very light by adding more water. Use this to paint the white area in the hat. To create a gradient and make that color even lighter on the right side of the hat, I pull the color over to the right with a clean and damp paintbrush. Here is this technique in detail. Wet a clean paintbrush, dab it on a paper towel to get rid of excess water. With your other paintbrush, paint. And before that paint dries, use the clean and damp paintbrush to pull the color. That added water in the paintbrush created a nice smooth gradient. I use this technique a lot. I do exactly the same here. The fur has shadow in it, it's not white everywhere. So I mix a little bit of black into my brown and yellow mix. Make sure to add water so it stays light. I use this technique I demonstrated a second ago where I apply paint in the shadow areas and I pull it towards the lightest fur areas. Now let's add green. I'm going to dry this and let's move on to step 3. We're going to add shadows. Mix brown and black to get a dark brown color. I add that in the areas that I see are darkest on my photo and I pull the paint with my clean and damp paintbrush. Feel free to slow down the video in the settings. This is a YouTube tutorial, so the goal is to make it super clear, but not very lengthy, also because it takes me a lot of time to produce quality real-time videos. I normally teach paid classes on Skillshare that are more in-depth and real-time, but I thought it would be nice doing something like this here on YouTube, so I hope you enjoy it so far. For Skillshare classes from me, there is a link in the description. Our sheep is looking awesome already. For shadows on the hat, I mix black to red to get a dark red color. Don't be afraid to add a little on the white part of the hat for more realism. Same for the 3 berries, it helps them stand out. It's better when one thing, like the hat here, is not just one color. That's why I add shadows. It looks a lot more realistic. More brown and black, and this time underneath the sheep to show it's sitting on the ground. It makes him more 3D to add that. I am also adding some in the fur to build up realism. Remember to keep using the clean and damp paintbrush technique to fade the dark paints into the previous light layers. Let's move on to step 4 with the final details. With thick black paint this time, add the eyes, nostrils, a bit more shadow in the hat with black and red. And now let's make sure this is dry. Step 5, we're ready for highlights. With your white gel pen or white gouache, let's highlight the eyes. I add a few subtle lines on the wood parts that are lightest, and that's it. We're ready to paint a cute penguin. Step 1, prepare the colors. You need the same as before minus green. Prepare yellow, red, brown, and black, creamy consistency. Let's zoom in on consistencies. Watery consistency. A lot of water and a little paint. Ideal for light areas like the fur. Creamy consistency. A lot of paint and water. Ideal for washes of paint that are meant to show, to look vibrant, but still light enough that when they dry, we can add to it easily with other layers. Thick consistency. Ideal for final details. Have a lot of paint and little water for this. We did it with the sheep previously when we added the eyes. Step 2, the base layer. Add brown to yellow to create that natural fur effect once more. Let's just paint all of the penguin except the beak and the hat. Use the technique I showed in the sheep to create gradients in the fur. We're proceeding in the same way with the hat, using red. And then we fade the paints once more, and like for the sheep, let's have a bit on the white parts to make them look more interesting and realistic. I add some too in the mouth. And now we need to make sure this is dry so paints don't bleed into each other with the next step. Step 3, the black parts. I like to mix in a bit of brown with black, but you can use black alone. Since this is a penguin, you can use a thick consistency right away in the beak and directly pull that mix into something lighter with a clean and damp brush technique I showed you earlier. Remember, you can slow down the video from the settings. I always like to add shadows at the bottom of my subjects to add realism. Step 4, shadows, and for that I mix in more brown into the yellow paint to end up with some kind of a golden brown color. We're going to glaze this on top of the black parts in some places and always pull the paints into the rest of the penguin with a clean and damp paintbrush technique. Have a light hand on this if you'd like your penguin to look more white than mine. To create texture, you can use the dry brush technique. Pick a paint with your paintbrush. It can be thick, creamy, or watery. What matters is to take some of that paint off by dabbing the paintbrush on a paper towel so the paintbrush ends up almost dry. There's still paint inside, so when you brush the paper lightly with it, you will see a texture effect happen. If it doesn't, it means your paintbrush is too damp still. Dab it on the paper towel some more. This is useful in fur and a bunch of other things. I do it again in the hat with very light black paint. We're missing shadows in the hat, so let's mix red to black. You can see I used the clean and damp paintbrush technique here to pull the paints from the dark side of the hat to the light one. And I used the dry brush technique here to create texture on the white part of the hat. Let's increase shadows where the black parts are darkest with a thick mix of black. We need some highlight for step number 5. First, make sure your illustration is dry. Then let's add the white gel pen on the darker parts because that's where it pops best. The beak and the eyes is where we need it the most. Then the black fur and the claws. You can add a bit too in other parts wherever you feel it's needed. That's it for this one. Let's paint a cute doll, and I hope you're enjoying this Christmas watercolor lesson so far. Step 1. Have your colors ready. Everything we have used before minus green. So you need yellow, red, brown, and black. Remember to start with a creamy consistency. We can add water or paint anytime. Step 2. The base layer. So with a mix of yellow and brown, let's cover the face, hands, and feet. The face seems already dry. If not, dry it. And moving on to painting the hat with red. Now with a light gray, that's black with added water, let's paint the dress. To make that dress more fun, alternate with the color red. If you can do it fast enough, both gray and red will bleed into each other, which is what we want. Look at how pretty this is already. Let's dry this so we can paint the plates. I use a light mix of brown, yellow, and black. I'm not trying to draw the shape of the plate really precisely, just to suggest it with a few lines. Step 3. Shadows, and we're starting with a mix of brown, black, and red to enhance the skin parts. Use the clean and damp paintbrush technique to fade those shadows into the lighter parts of the skin. Let's repeat for the plates and the face. With a mix of black and red now, let's create shadows on the dress. The one beneath the chin is important, but make sure the face was dry first. Then let's add shadows in places, just to make that dress look more interesting, not bland and boring. Let's add those bows with color red. And now shadows on the hat with red and black, but before you do that, I want to show you the lifting technique. Use it to make a dark area look lighter. While the paint you applied is still wet, get a clean paintbrush. That paintbrush must be wet first, and then it must be made thirsty, meaning almost dry. To do this, wipe it on a paper towel. It should feel dry, not damp. Then press firmly on the wet paint from your painting in order to lift color off of it. This is a great way to create highlights. This is what I'm doing in the hat right now. I added vibrant paints, but since it looks so saturated at this point, it's nice to get some highlight back. I'm adding more shadow with red and black at the bottom. Step 4, let's add the final details. First, the eyes with a thick mix of black, the mouth with red, and if you think you need to, you can increase shadows in certain places like I'm doing. Step 5, the highlights, and the pen is great here to have a nice hair effect at the bottom of the plates, and also some highlights on the face. Stitches on the dress, it really finishes it. And a few on the hat to show its shape and wool-like texture even better. You might enjoy this playlist for more watercolor help and find a fun Skillshare class to take from the link in the description of this video. Thank you for watching and see you next time!